Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rogan, and you are watching The Mysterious Stoner in Ebola. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. I decided to get a haircut this past week. It was for a special occasion, but the occasion never happened. But I wanted to get a haircut anyways, and the occasion was just a good excuse. And I even wanted to trim the beard up. I don't have the clippers for the beard. I only have scissors. But it is something I simply have not gotten around to yet. Thinking about a lot of other things, priorities and such. This is a priority. Anyways, so today we are going to talk about Jacob and the beginning of his story. We left off in the last episode. Jacob had been driven out from his family because of the mischief he got into with his mother, and Esau was very angry with him and wanted to kill him. So Jacob had to leave, and Jacob's father told him to go to his relatives and find a wife there. So again, with the extended family incest. And Jacob travels, and he gets to the family, he meets them, and he gets along with them really well. And he falls in love with this beautiful cousin of his named Rebecca. Rachel. Rebecca was Jacob's mother. This is Rachel. Jacob meets his cousin Rachel and falls completely head over heels for her. And her father, Laban, owns lots and lots of flocks and goats and everything. And so he decides to train Jacob on how to be a shepherd and to do really well at it. And Jacob does really well at it. He learns all kinds of tricks, and he maybe even had some tricks from home. He seems to have picked some here and there along the way, but we're not going to get to those today. Today we are, one thing at a time. So, Jacob is working for Laban, and they're getting along so wonderfully. And Laban says to Jacob, "You shouldn't be working for me, for free. I want to give you something. You're doing so well, and you really deserve something for your good hard work. What would you like of the things that I have that I can offer you?" And Jacob says, "Rachel, I really want Rachel." And he agrees with Laban to work for him for 7 years in order to earn the privilege to marry Rachel. And he is so in love with her that the Bible even says that the 7 years seemed like only a few days to Jacob because of how much he loved her. Jacob completes his 7 years, and they're getting the wedding all set up, right? They have the wedding, it goes well, and it seems they do things a bit differently, traditionally speaking, because for some strange reason, probably due to part of the customs and everything, Jacob had no idea until the morning that he had been scammed. You see, Rachel was one of 2 daughters of Laban. And apparently Laban decided to switch daughters. he put the older daughter, what was her name? Lydia, I believe. Leia, that was the name. Oh, just like in Star Wars. Leia was the older sister. She was not nearly as attractive as Rachel. And she was not who Jacob was interested in at all. Jacob did not know that he had been married to Leia until the morning after the wedding, and they had already consummated the marriage. I don't know how. Maybe Jacob was really drunk. That would have been really smart on Laban's part to get him extremely drunk. Probably would have helped. And kept things dark. Leia probably had a veil over her face, I'm guessing, for most of the time. Not full. She would have had to have it on for the whole time, I suppose, for Jacob to never notice. But yes, Jacob thought he was marrying Rachel, but he ended up marrying Leia. And he is enraged. He comes into Laban. And he said, what have you done to me? I worked for you for 7 years for Rachel. But you have given me Leia. And Laban says, well, I'm sorry, but it is our custom and tradition here that the oldest daughter has to be given in marriage before the younger daughter can. Laban waited 7 years to tell Jacob this information. I don't know how Jacob didn't know about this in 7 years. I don't know why Rachel didn't tell Jacob this ahead of time. There are some serious plot holes here. If Rachel really loved Jacob, and if she knew about this tradition, why wouldn't she tell him? But carry on with the story we must. So Jacob says, all right, fine. I'll work for you for another 7 years to have Rachel. And he does it. And Laban gets another free, well, not free, but he's trading labor for his daughter, using her as a bargaining chip, basically. He gives her to Jacob after another 7 years of work. So Jacob ended up working 14 years for the woman he actually wanted. But he got stuck with Leia in addition to that. All of a sudden, God decides to show up. You see, oh, no. He didn't show up to punish Laban for cheating Jacob. No. He didn't come to do that. You see, Jacob naturally loved Rachel significantly more than Leia. He gave her a lot more attention than Leia. And so God decided to step in and make Leia have lots of babies from Jacob whenever he would sleep with her. And he kept Rachel from having any children for a long time. And then it kind of became a not a, well a competition between the two sisters to try and get more babies than the other one. Except, of course, Rachel was having absolutely no luck herself, and so she has a maidservant, a personal maidservant that was given to her, from her wedding. And Leah has one as well, but Rachel takes her maidservant and she tells Jacob, "Hey, have sex with my maidservant, get her pregnant, and I'll raise her child as mine." Basically. And so Jacob does that. And then Leah says, "Hey, that's not fair. Jacob, come sleep with my maidservant and have babies with her." And of course, Leah's still having babies herself. So babies everywhere. Except for coming from Rachel. And it's ridiculous. There's some drama that goes on between the two, and then we get to the end here, and it says, "And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb." After a whole bunch of this mess, God finally decides to let Rachel off the hook and let her have a child. I think she ends up having two. I'm not sure about the second one, but this particular one is named Joseph, and he's the one we're going to be following later on down the road. It doesn't really say that Jacob ended up loving both of his wives equally. Never says that. And it's strange because it may have been punishing Jacob, but why did God have to punish Rachel? Why did he have to punish Jacob in this manner? Because what did Rachel do that was wrong? I mean, traditionally speaking, most men don't have two wives. But I would imagine if you were a capable enough man to have more than one woman, you would need to spend your time equally between the two, right? Or I don't know. I don't know if that's something that men would be capable of, considering how much time a woman likes to have from her man. Then having to share it with another woman, I mean, each woman is going to want one-on-one time alone, away from the other woman. They can't all three be together all the time unless all three are really well connected and intimate with each other. And kind of sort of act like, three inseparable super great friends, which would be great if that were possible, but this is clearly not what's going on. God doesn't have a problem with Jacob being married to two women, and has no problem with the fact that they're sisters. If that would be I don't know. I'm not used to thinking of polygamy as being a normal thing, so this is a bit difficult for me to try and rationalize. I'm doing my best. But I would think that if God was going to step in, he should have stepped in and saved Jacob from being scammed by Laban at the wedding. That is where God should have stepped in. Why does he wait? Why does he let Jacob get cheated? Is that revenge for, is this his punishment for screwing Esau over out of his birthright and blessing. It doesn't say if it is or not. It just gives this story. And, God's not doing anything or giving an opinion or saying who's guilty and who's right. Things are just happening. And then all of a sudden, Jacob doesn't love his wives equally. I'm going to step in and punish the wife he loves more. If you're going to punish anyone, punish Laban. If you're going to punish Jacob, punish Jacob. I understand if Rachel is being mean to Leah. That's not stated here in the story. It's not stated if Jacob is being actually bad towards Leah. He has the woman he's always wanted for the previous 14 and some years that he's been here. He naturally wants to spend more time with her. He shouldn't, by rights, Leah shouldn't even be in the picture. So there shouldn't be a problem. But there is. You see the problem here that I have with God, with his judgment, with his timing, with his lack of explanation, with his complete ignoring of Laban. Okay, to be fair, Laban does get some revenge dealt on him. But it isn't by God, and God does not command to happen what happens. Jacob, and it's not said if Jacob does this out of revenge, but I can imagine he probably did. And I don't know where he learned these tricks from, but they're described here in chapter 30. And it's unusual, and I have heard that these methods are proven to be scientifically true, even though scientists may not necessarily understand why it works. I'm not saying it actually does work, I'm just saying I've heard that it actually works. But you can go there, look it up for yourself. The results of what Jacob did, he was in charge of taking care of his own flocks and herds, and and Laban's as well. He had his own and he had Laban's. He was taking care of both of them, taking care of their breeding and everything. And they had a deal going on that Laban's sheep, Laban's cattle and everything were going to all be, I think they kept getting mixed up or something, so they decided to cut a deal that they thought would be fair, to where Laban had all the goats and sheep that were solid in color, and Jacob would get all the sheep that were streaked or spotted and weren't solid colors. And Jacob somehow learned the tricks to, without Laban knowing, I guess, he made it to where the goats and sheep that he got were stronger and had better offspring, healthier overall, and had more, well, I don't know if it affected them having more kids, but there's definitely more guaranteed of them having successful births, and just him having better flocks overall, stronger, more productive, and larger numbers. But with Laban's, he made them more infertile and weak. And yeah, I don't think he purposely made them sickly. They just It was something to do with what he did to their drinking water. I really don't understand it. I am not a scientist in any sort of degree, so I really don't. It makes no sense to me. It's, it may as well be rocket science, but you can see it for yourself. Genesis 30, chapter 30, verse 37, where it starts, and so he gets his revenge. He makes Laban start to wilter in his flocks and in his cattle. Remember that cattle and sheep and all that were the sign of wealth back then. They were the money. They were the cash flow. If you had cattle, you were a rich man. And like I said, God did not command Jacob to do this to Laban. But as a result of what Jacob does, his flocks get bigger and better, and he himself gets wealthier and wealthier. God seems to be perfectly fine with letting him do his thing to Laban, and Laban's cattle gets more and more fucked over time. But Laban he's not really ready to get rid of Jacob quite yet. He doesn't want him to leave because he's good for business in general. He's good at taking care of his flocks. He got more than 14 years worth of work out of him for 2 daughters. So he doesn't want to let him go yet. But Jacob, he's starting to get ready to leave. And we'll pick up with that next time. Now, it's been quite a long time, because I used to be a Christian, and I used to be able to derive good spiritual lessons from just about anywhere, and I still can to a pretty good degree. My dad was very good at teaching me that. Well, drilling me into learning how to do it anyway. Long story, you can look it up. I used to be a Christian, all that jazz. But these days, being an ex-Christian, looking back on this story now, I really don't quite understand the value of this story. Because, the whole Bible is supposed to be about God. These are terrible examples of how humans should act towards each other. They're cheating each other, they're having revenge on each other for cheating on each other, and what is God doing? God's just like, oh, I don't want, I'm going to keep letting this go. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to punish this person who, they're not the one necessarily doing the bad thing, but I'm going to punish them because that's going to sort of affect this person. And Jacob doesn't even repent to God or anything, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. That's it. That's it. And she gets 1 or 2 kids, max, while Leah is having multiple, and all the maids are having multiple. Multiple as in more than 2. There's a total of 12 kids that come out from between all 4 women. Sorry, 13. 13. Yes, the 12 tribes of Israel, but there was a daughter as well. And we'll get to hear a story about her down the road. But that's it. That's all where God jumps in for that one little bit to make things a little bit more difficult for Jacob, and make things rough for Rachel, even though it doesn't say she really does anything wrong, ever. Another innocent victim. God playing favorites, it seems. Gotta love Jehovah. Such a great guy. So understanding. So fair to everyone. I'm thinking that God was just the random explanation for whatever medical reason Rachel had for having a difficult time having children. It's completely natural for some women to have a hard time having children. She may have been having miscarriages, perhaps, and they just didn't mention it, or who knows? Who knows what was really going on? But I bet if a modern day doctor had gotten to look at Rachel, he would have been able to explain, no, this is not an act of God. There is a medical reason for this, and I have the medication or the operation that will take care of this. Or at the very least, have a legitimate explanation. I don't think God was involved at all. Because he's not the loving, friendly, closer than a brother guy that the New Testament describes him as. The Bible says that he's never changing either. Yesterday the same, forever. Amen. I don't think I really like this God. I've said it before in other videos, but this guy really is a dick. He just picks and chooses when to show up, and he doesn't even say anything. He did show up a little bit earlier, but in a dream to Jacob, just to tell him how much he was going to be blessed some more. Another Joseph Smith moment, except it was a dream. Otherwise, he seems to not care what people do until they just do that one little thing. Oh, he's not loving the wife he always wanted. No, he's not loving the wife he didn't want as much as he is loving the wife that he wanted, so I should punish him. Instead of just having intervened and helped him not get the wife that he didn't want in the first place. This God is a fucking idiot. And people pray to him and... shit. Wusa. When you used to believe this type of shit, and then you come around, it's really sad, disheartening, and a bit frustrating to realize that you once actually believed this shit, and that other people still do. All my friends and, well, my old friends that I used to have, the vast majority of my relatives all believe this stuff. And a lot of people all across the world believe that this is true, that this is worth believing in, that this God is worth worshipping and writing songs about, praying to, and seeking guidance from. No, my friends, he is not. He is not at all. And he gets a bit ignored in the next story, which I think you might find rather interesting. So we're gonna go through that one as well. But we've just seen more examples of terrible humans. Not really of the fairness and goodness and mercy and justice of God, more the stupidity and cherry pickiness of him. And that concludes this video. So if you've enjoyed it, if you found it informative, if you've learned something you never learned before, please let me know in the comments if you have something interesting to share. I'd love to hear about it regarding what was discussed today. And please leave a like, share, subscribe if you haven't. It would really mean a lot to me. I could really use it. I've got big plans for trying to help make the world a better place. That is the foundation, the main foundational reason as to why I am here and doing what I am doing. But you can see the more specific and detailed reasons in other videos. Just have to go check out my channel. Hope I'll see you in the next video, which will be posted next week. Until next time, my friends, farewell.